Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for RPAG and FlexPath's leader, founder, and CEO, Vince Giovinazzo.
Welcome. Thank you so much. I feel a little left out. I have water, and as I look around, most of you have an adult beverage. I don't know if that's right, but I'll catch up a little later, I promise. That video is inspirational. In fact, it's a little bit overwhelming. We've done this now 19 times. This is our 19th annual Retirement Plan Advisory Group Conference. And we hope this sets the tone for the next 2 days. We are absolutely delighted you're here with us. Thank you so much. It is the absolute highlight of our year. And if you're going to have a conference, I guess why not have it at the Ritz-Carlton, right? Beautiful Laguna Niguel, where the weather is perfect and the state taxes are unreasonably high, but that's okay, we'll deal with that. So look, I have a lot to talk about in a few minutes. So this year's theme is Limitless. Let's launch right into it. The dictionary definition of limitless, pretty obvious, without any limits or constraints. No boundaries, unending, infinite, outer space. And indeed, as I look out at all of you, that's what you represent. And that's what makes this the most wonderful time of year for us. Because you are the most successful, the most knowledgeable, the most skilled, and the largest retirement plan distribution force in our industry. Many of you joined RPAG many years ago. As I look out in the audience, I see advisors who joined us with 3, 4, 5, 8 plans that today have $1 billion, $2 billion or more in AUM. It is so heartwarming to see that. Believe me, we love it. We absolutely love it. Many others are in that hockey stick growth phase as we speak. Congratulations to all of you. And while you've been doing that, we too have been busy with our own limitless growth. First, with the founding of 401k Advisors in 2000 that eventually became NFP. Nick's going to be speaking more about that in a few minutes, followed by the creation of RPAG in 2004 that began with our first RPAG member, Todd Lohman. Is Todd, are you here in the audience? I know he's here at the conference. I'm not sure if he's out there, but shout out to Todd, who's still an RPAG member. And finally, FlexPath Strategies, the fastest growing CIT distribution force in our industry. Again, thanks to all of you. So we're going to spend the next 2 days discussing solutions that provide limitless growth opportunities for your business. And we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. But let me ask you 2 questions that take us in a radically different direction. Stay with me on this, okay? Because you're going to wonder where I'm going. But I'm going to a different place for a minute. Hang in there. Anybody who knows me knows I do this from time to time. First question, as much time as you spend building a limitless career, how much time do you spend building limitless personal health? Second question, what if one day you experienced this? What if you experienced this? How would that make you feel? Because that's exactly what happened to me recently. The sudden and immediate belief that my health was gone, done, over. It started with a medical procedure known as a biopsy to determine the presence of cancer. I'll never forget the day and time, 10 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. I drove to the doctor's office to pick up the test results, even though my appointment wasn't for 4 hours, because I had to know. I had to know. And this is what I found out. What would your first thought be if you received a test result with the words malignant written all over it with no explanation? It's obvious, right? I can tell you my first thought, I'm going to die. That was my first reaction. So I walked out to my car. It gets better. It's okay, I know. Believe me, it gets better. It's better. Trust me. You got to set this thing up and then go. We'll be there. I walked out to my car, test results in hand. I drove in total silence, arrived at home, totally numb, mindlessly sat down on my computer. I stared blankly at the screen for a few minutes, and then I slowly started to reflect on my life, which led me to this number because everyone knows I'm a numbers guy, 8,760. Well, if you read my welcome letter, you know 8,760 are the number of hours in a year, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And that in turn led me to a file, and you won't be shocked to hear this, anybody who knows me, with a journal and spreadsheet that I started 25 years ago, tracking how I spend those 8,760 hours each year, estimating the hours and percentage of time in each category, particularly the foundational categories, and periodically making adjustments to achieve the balance that I needed. Only this time, it felt a little different. It felt like a final exam, literally. So I kept asking myself if I'd made a difference and given my best to my family, to my friends, to my career, to my community over these past years and decades. I reflected on these thoughts for hours until it was time for my afternoon appointment. We arrived at the doctor's office. We're immediately ushered into a room. The doctor walked in with a folder, sat down in front of me, and before he uttered a word, I leaned forward. It's like a movie, it really was. And you know what I said, right? I said, "How long have I got?" So he looked at me square in the eye, smiled confidently, which I thought was a cruel thing to do to someone that had a self-proclaimed death sentence. And he said, "Well, you have about 30 years, give or take, depending on your health." I processed it for a second and said, "That's impossible. What about this? What about this?" as I waved the test results at him. I'm not exactly sure what he said after that. I think it's what he said and then the thought bubble. What he said was, "I don't like to release test results until I've had a chance to visit with the patient." The thought bubble was, "You dumbass," was somewhere in there. But to make a long story short, through a series of ridiculous misinterpretations and other inaccuracies, I learned that, as Josh Turner says in his beautiful country song, everything is fine. In the meantime, the best part of all this is my wife, Susie, had never said a word. She sat quietly in the corner, swiping on her phone. And she looked up when she heard the good news and said simply, "Well, I guess I'm going to have to cancel all those dates I just made on Match.com." Those are the jokes you get when you've been married for 37 years. And by now you're wondering why in the world I would tell such a story, a morose story, even one with a happy ending, and what it could possibly have to do with retirement. I'm edging my way closer. I'm almost there. So I walked out to the car and I wrote this down. Preparation for a comfortable retirement, it's meaningless. It's meaningless if we're not healthy or we're not alive. I mean, here we are in the business of enhancing retirement outcomes, but what the hell good is that if retirees aren't around to enjoy it? Starting with you and your own retirement, and that's where we're going to start. So when we discuss Limitless, it can also apply, in fact, it does apply to your health span. Limitless, living better, cognitive, physical, and emotional well-being. What Dr. Peter calls medicine 3.0, which is not the treatment of disease, which is where we've been stuck in this country for the last 200 years, but the prevention of it, living better. According to the World Health Organization, the average global health span, not lifespan, the average global health span is 63 years. That's decades less than it should be, and that's a little frightening on a personal level since I'm 64 years old. Call it crazy, call it radical innovation, call it ridiculous, but how can RPAG help with your health span? So here's the way I see it in my backwards left-handed Italian 64-year-old brain. E plus S equals T squared, where E is efficiency, S is scale, and T is time. If we at RPAG are doing our jobs well, and if we're not, I want to hear about it, we should be delivering solutions that create efficiency and scale that free up your time. How much time? Who knows, right? So we're going to take a wild guess and say 400 hours for sake of this discussion. 400 hours a year. Hopefully you can use some of that time we have given you back wisely, mostly in foundational activities, especially as it relates to your health span. So why now? Why here? Well, I'm going to begin with a statistic that's so stunning I didn't believe it at first. Since 2020, you'll believe the first number, you won't believe the second number, 7 million people have died of COVID. Horrible, the worst pandemic in US history, and one of the worst worldwide. During that same time period, 60 million people have died of ASCVD. You're not familiar with that acronym? You're not alone. Atherosclerosis and cardiovascular disease. Say that 10 times as fast as you can. It has become its own pandemic, but we can change that. We can change it. We have the largest group of thought leaders in the industry in this room, and if you elevate your health span, you will reduce the incidence of your own ASCVD. And sooner than later, your leadership will result in solutions and ideas that help your clients do the same, and eventually plan participants as well. A dream Yeah, I'm full of dreams, wild dreams. Three of them you've heard about, 401k advisors, RPAG, and FlexPath, and I can tell you dreams do come true, so that's my dream. So let's have fun, just 5 minutes, not 50 minutes or 2 hours. Let's consolidate. I estimate I've listened to 2,000 hours of podcasts over the last 2 years and read probably 5,000 pages. And let's consolidate that in 5 minutes. Okay, let's try. None of the health span behaviors we'll discuss are new, but the secret sauce, just as you have demonstrated with your own limitless business success, the secret sauce is execution. Just a few ideas, let's have some fun with it. And because there's so much overlap, we have summarized the benefits on one slide. One is worth mentioning, because it comes up time and time again. Protection from the so-called 4 horsemen of disease, a term coined by Dr. Peter Attia. What are the 4 horsemen? Well, you know one of them, ASCVD, atherosclerosis and cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer, and diabetes. Those are the 4 horsemen. All diseases dramatically on the rise, and that we have the power to reduce. Okay, let's launch into it. Sleep. Well, that's something I ignored for about 25 years. The idea is to average at least 7 hours a night, but the most important sleep is REM sleep, rapid eye movement. Why? Because it's dream sleep. It clears your emotional cache, as it were, so you can feel refreshed when you wake up the next day. How do you get more REM sleep? Well, there's a great book by Dr. Matthew Walker called Why We Sleep. Wonderful book, highly recommended. He also has a podcast. Here are a few ideas. Go out and get some morning sun for a few minutes. Not through a window, not with sunglasses. Don't burn out the retina of your eye, and not through the window of your car, but direct sunlight will set your circadian rhythm and you'll sleep better. Do the same around sunset. Dim the lights 1 to 2 hours prior to sleep. White or brown noise for ambient sound. Lots of great apps out there. Cool the room down. And if you drink alcohol, and I do, like my wine, tequila, drink a little less or drink a little earlier so that your REM sleep isn't wiped out. Okay, exercise. Okay, that's not new. The word results in 8 billion responses in an internet search. 8 billion responses. So 3 ideas. Ready? Zone 2, HIIT and resistance, 4 to 5 days a week, 30 to 45 minutes. Zone 2 is cardio, anything to get your heart rate up high enough so that you can still talk but barely. If you walk, walk uphill, walk a little faster, dozens of different cardio machines. HIIT, something I avoided for a while there in the last 20 years, but it's high intensity training to get your heart rate up if you're healthy enough to do that to a maximum level for just a few minutes, maybe once a week. It could be a 1-minute sprint on a bike, treadmill, Stairmaster, or a rowing machine, or jumping rope all out, followed by a 2-minute recovery, and then repeat that. This helps you with your VO2 level, which is the benchmark for cardio fitness. It doesn't take much. Resistance training, and this is primarily, maybe a contrological, but for the women more than men. It's more important for women and men. 50% of women over the age of 50 have osteopenia. 70% of women over the age of 70 have osteopenia, and that leads to osteoporosis. All can be avoided. 20 to 30 minutes is all you need. Look up Dr. Andy Galpin. Dr. Andy, Galpin, his 3x5 routine, 3 to 5 exercises, 3 to 5 sets, 3 to 5 reps, 3 to 5 minutes rest. Okay, diet. 40,000 diet-related books on Amazon, and there's certainly no shortage of documentaries and untrained idiots on social media with strong opinions. So here are 3 undisputed scientific facts from those 40,000 books. Only 3. We need fiber, and a lot of it. Many different sources of fiber: fruits, vegetables, kale, beans, legumes, avocados, nuts, unprocessed grains, cereals, breads. Number 2, and this is probably the most controversial thing, particularly with a few documentaries out there that state to the contrary, we need way more protein than the RDAs published by the government, and you can't get enough only from vegetables. According to the World Health Organization, quote, the most powerful dietary driver of longevity and health span is adequate protein. Do a fact check on me, on all of this, any of it. Go to examine.com. For $100 a year, you get any scientific research you want on any supplement, dietary strategy, anything. It pulls in all the research. Or Google anything and end with NCBI, N like Nancy, C, B like boy, I, and it'll pull in all of the independent scientific research. And the last one, and this was a big one for me, too much refined sugar increases the likelihood of body inflammation, type 2 diabetes, and other diseases. For me, sugar was a food group for like 45 years. trays of chocolate chip cookies every night, and I paid for it. Think of a metal or copper pipe on the outside of a house that has rust or corrosion due to exposure to the air. That's oxidation and what refined sugar does to your body over the long haul. Okay, diet. Last comment about diet so we can put this in perspective. Dr. Peter Attia, world-renowned scientist, nutritionist, etc., medical doctor, says when his daughter gives him a brownie, he eats it because his daughter gave him a brownie. So moderation, right? Moderation is important, particularly we're at this conference. Eat, drink, have a great time. So we could be here till Tuesday discussing supplementation, but the big three, protein powder, creatine, and omega-3s. We've already discussed the need for more protein than the RDAs prescribe. You know, in the old days, I would eat 15 chicken breasts a day, but that just gets a little bit old. Try high-quality, sugar-free whey or pea protein powder. See some weird looks. PEA, pea protein powder, soy, vegetable protein. There's lots of great proteins out there. Creatine. It is not just for bodybuilders. As a matter of fact, this is one of the best discoveries I've made in the last 2 years. Cognitive benefits, blood sugar management, lowers body inflammation, and more. Omega-3s, that's EPA and DHA, taken preferably 1-to-1 ratio. Again, you can eat like 10 pounds of salmon a day, right, at $50 a pound or whatever it is now. But it's a lot less expensive to supplement with high-quality fish oil. Space your protein throughout the day. Take your creatine and omega-3s with food. The tip of the pyramid, so much fun to talk about, so much on social media, and some of it's even, gosh, by chance accurate. The 4 things that I would talk about today: cold water immersion, sauna, cyclic breathing, and comprehensive blood panel. Cold water immersion, I did it at 3 o'clock today. First thing it does is it gets rid of all your adrenaline, so you're relaxed as hell. Dopamine release, life is so good. That's our model, Matt Giovinazzo, and the cold water, cold plunge. Start with warmer temperatures, work your way down over time. It's the single most impactful behavior that I've ever done for, I would say, mood management and energy. The dopamine release is amazing. Sauna, 175 degrees, 15 to 30 minutes, better and deeper sleep, increased metabolism, mild cardiovascular benefits, protection from illness, and a lot more. Cyclic breathing, again, I mention it because it's one of the most impactful behaviors to reduce stress because it is absolutely immediate. One long inhale through the nose, another short breath through the nose, followed by a long exhale through the mouth. I'll even demonstrate. Ready? Boy, it works. Instant. Try it prior to or even during any stressful activity like, having your in-laws over or something like that. It really works. And finally, if your doctor does not know what ApoB is, APO, big B, big discovery for me 3 years ago, most don't, get a new doctor. The old days of looking at cholesterol and HDL as your biomarkers for heart disease are gonzo. Let me give you an analogy. In our world, it would be like evaluating standard deviation and beta without knowing style attribution or information ratio. It's just incomplete. So 2 ideas for a comprehensive blood panel really fast. BostonHeart.com, because they will match you with a doctor in your area that works with them. And then the second is Inside Tracker that will send a lab tech to your home, draw blood, and work directly with you to interpret the test results. There are a lot of ostriches out there, hopefully none in this room, but I've known many. They don't want to know. Sticking your head in the sand isn't going to help. I know that's shocking. And if you're under 30 and you blew me off 10 minutes ago because you feel like you're immortal like I did when I was under 30, I'm going to say 2 things to you. The days are long, but the years are really short. And the second thing I'm going to tell you is, from John F. Kennedy, the time to repair the roof is when the sun is shining. Okay, thanks for indulging me on that. If you haven't guessed by now, my dream is that you can spend some of the time you save through the RPAG platform on foundational activities that enhance the quality of your life, particularly as it relates to health span. So now I'm going to turn it back on you, give you a chance to think about this for a second. What would your thought be? I'll take a sip of water after I do ask you this question. What would your thoughts be if you had 4 hours where you believe the end of your life was approaching, not in decades, not in years, but in months or weeks? What would you think about? What would you think about? Would you look back and ask if your time was well spent? Would you wish you had made some changes in certain areas? It's worth asking. I will tell you, for me personally, during the 4-hour nightmare that I endured, believing that the end was imminent, I reflected on all aspects of my life. I did. Yes, they say you don't think about your career. I did. Thought about my career. In fact, with respect to my career, my first thought was you, all of you in this room. It's no bullshit. It's true. The hundreds of RPAG advisors that I've met and whose meteoric growth we have so thoroughly enjoyed being part of. It's been a huge part of my life. The friendships forged out there from working with the elite fund managers and record keepers represented at this conference. Some of those go back 25 and 30 years. And our own team, some of whom I've known for, I got 17 and a half minutes in before I did it this year, okay? So what a privilege it has been to know and serve all of you. So with respect to my personal life, I thought about my role as a husband, father, son, grandfather, friend, and how fortunate I have been. But I believe how fortunate we all are to be part of an industry that has allowed us the opportunity to have balance to achieve career and personal success. And that is exactly what we hope and what we want for all of you, that your efficiencies and scale give you more balance to spend more time living better, building your health span so that you can fully enjoy your own retirement. And my dream, that through your thought leadership and innovation, over time you'll share ideas and solutions with your clients that drive both enhanced retirement outcomes for plan participants and enhanced health span outcomes for them as well. Thank you and enjoy the conference.